I really want to talk about this chapter because I feel like, especially today, where we can't, as a society, seem to have an intelligent conversation in terms of religion, politics, education, like anything like that. We just react, right?
Right.
So let's talk about this chapter because I feel like it's relevant for today.
I agree. It was actually one of my favorite chapters to write too, because remaining calm, particularly in chaotic situations, almost becomes a superpower. Having the ability to think clearly and think about what the next step is in whatever situation you're dealing with, you're just going to be able to help more people than if you were panicking and becoming overwhelmed or frightened or angry or whatever. So yeah, being calm is like super important to me. I want to be very clear. Like I don't mean suppress and ignore emotions, but rather like be able to experience all of your emotions but don't let them dictate what your next step is. There's a great book out there by Michael Singer called The Untethered Soul. And he talks about our interaction with emotion. He helps you kind of develop this practice of creating like separation between stimulus and reaction. And that separation allows you to kind of detach and observe your emotions through a lens of like, all right, how am I going to respond? Yes, I'm incredibly frustrated about this. I want to yell. I want to throw things. But what is the best course of action? Probably not that. So let me take a breath, gather my thoughts, and then say, all right, this is the direction we're going to take. And that takes a great deal of practice. When you need to remain calm in stressful situations, that isn't the time to practice, but rather in all circumstances, whether you're happy or excited or maybe sad, like take that moment and create that separation between stimulus and reaction. And now you've started to build a habit where you are acknowledging, experiencing those emotions, but you've developed the habit and the practice to think first and then go about your business in the best possible way. But again, it takes a great deal of practice. The example I gave within the book was that training scenario when we were in Texas. It was a mass cow, so like we were raiding through a village. Again, this is just training, but I want to make that clear. And then I get a call over the radio like, "Hey, we need a medic in this building." I run over there, and it's one guy that's like quote unquote hurt, and then our med officer was like observing us and giving us not critiques, but he's essentially grading us, which adds like another layer of stress amidst the whole situation. But myself and it was a PJ, his name's Andre. We started working on this guy, and then two more injured individuals come through the door, and then like two more, and then like three more. So at the end of the night, we had eight bodies all over the ground, and it's incredibly stressful, and it was fake. Like it wasn't even a real scenario, but it was incredibly stressful. And so if I allowed the stress to then affect my emotions, and then I reacted based on the emotions, nobody would have been better off. Like everybody would have suffered. So having the ability to acknowledge emotions, yes, I'm stressed out, but let's get to work. And that comes again through a lot of training. Like my med training was ridiculous, and we practiced trauma scenarios over and over and over again. We had a very specific sequence to address those kind of situations. And so I relied very heavily on, my training and then my confidence in my skills because of the training. And that allowed the stress level to kind of be lowered and then my emotional response to be dampened because I knew what to do. It was just a lot to do. You know what I mean?
What if you don't know what to do? Like, what if all of a sudden, like, you're in this stressful situation and you don't know the steps, but you know you have to remain calm to figure out the steps? And
Sure.
how do you tackle that on?
In a situation like that, I would still take that, 1 second and take a breath, just a big deep breath, and pause. And that doesn't mean freeze up, because if you freeze up, it's almost as bad as if you're reacting poorly based on emotion. I think in any situation, you can at least identify like a micro step you can take in the right direction. And if you can acknowledge that, then just get to that point. And and then find the next micro step you can take. And if you can get to that, find the next one. And if you get to the point where you are like, I am capped out, I have no idea what to do. Again, take that breath and try to analyze what the next best step would be. And if you legitimately don't have any clue, you can go back to the beginning. So, for example, for our trauma scenarios, we were given a very specific formula to follow. It's March, so massive hemorrhage, airway, respirations, circulation, hypothermia. And if you're navigating a trauma scenario and you've addressed everything you could in that order, your job is not done. You then just start over and then go back through the formula. Or if you get to a point where it's like he's still crashing, I have no idea what to do, go back to the beginning and run through your sequence. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Make sure that you put that tourniquet on correctly and it's not still leaking. You know what I mean? There's always at least a little something you can do. Um, but it requires, a pause, a breath, and then thinking through the process.